Welcome everyone in War Eagle. My name is Eddie Orantes, and I'm the Director of Business Operations for the Office of Alumni Affairs at Auburn University. And for the next 30 minutes, your host of the Auburn Alumni Association's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Spotlight. The Auburn Alumni Association values the unique life, experience, stories, thoughts, and contributions of its alumni, faculty, staff, and students. We may all come from different backgrounds, but it is appreciating one another and working together that we're able to promote an inclusive, diverse, and equitable society. Through these spotlights, we will tell the story of alumni, faculty, staff, and students and how they help to truly make Auburn University diverse. We want to get right to it and learn about the exciting things happening on our campus. We also want to hear from you. So ask questions and interact by leaving comments on our Facebook page, and we'll do our best to answer them in the half hour that we have together. Today, my guest is Dr. Kimberly Mulligan. She serves as the Auburn University College of Sciences and Mathematics Assistant Dean for Inclusion, Equity, and Diversity. Welcome to the show, Dr. Mulligan.
Thank you. We're so happy to be here.
I am excited to be able to get to know you and what you bring to the programs that we have for Auburn University. Now, you also are joined by two scholars, Clara King and Brianna Robert. Welcome to both of you to the show. What I would like to do, if we can, Dr. Mulligan, we want to get to know you as a person, as well as your professional kind of what you've gone through in your profession and the program. So can we start by getting to know you?
Oh, that's such a big question for, a brief introduction, but I just start off that, when I was in high school or in middle school and elementary school, like a lot of students who love science, I thought that I wanted to be a physician because that is what you do when you like science, right? That's the only thing you do. And my pediatrician, Dr. Corey, was a Black woman, and I really looked up to her. And so I wanted to be like her. So I was going to go to school and be a pediatrician. I had a mentor in high school who was a Black male who's an orthopedic surgeon, and he decided and told me that I think you should major in chemistry. It gives you more options in case you decide to do something different. And so I decided to be a chemistry pre-med major at Florida A&M University. And during my sophomore year, one of my professors approached me about doing research. And, it wasn't something that I really thought about because I had this idea of who scientists were, and it really wasn't me. But he said he was going to pay me, so it made all the difference in the world. And I said, yes, you know what, I will do research. But I ended up falling in love with it. I fell in love with the idea of creating cures instead of just administering them. And so I kind of started down that path of becoming a scientist. And so once again, another mentor, as I was thinking about my next steps, he helped guide me in thinking about where I should go to school. And he had a relationship with some people at Vanderbilt and told me I should apply. Once again, it was not something that I thought I wanted to do. Nashville, I had an idea of what Nashville was, and I didn't think it fit with who I was. But when I went to the university for my interview, I fell in love and knew that it was the place for me. And so I ended up going to Vanderbilt. The great thing about that program was it was interdisciplinary, so I did not have to come in and choose a professor or choose what my degree was going to be, and you had an opportunity to do rotations. And so I did a rotation in Owen McGinnis's lab in the Department of Molecular Physiology and Biophysics, and I really enjoyed the research, but more importantly, I really connected with him because he was a person who was really clear on wanting his students to discover their purpose and their passion and not just go down a route that you were supposed to because you're doing research and so you're expected to go do a postdoc and then expected to go be in academia. And because of that, he allowed me to explore other interests, and a group of graduate students formed a group called the Alliance for Cultural Diversity and Research, and we did a lot of STEM outreach, particularly in underserved communities in Nashville. And one of the things that struck me when we were doing this type of work was that we would go in these communities, and most of the graduate students that participate were, people of color, Black and brown, and the students would really be, oh, you're scientists. Because they still hadn't, we still have this idea of who a scientist is. I think still often people think about Albert Einstein, someone with crazy hair with glasses. I mean, I do have glasses, but they're cute. And, or, other things. And so it really helped me realize what I thought my purpose was going to be. And so what I tell people what I do now is that I create space for everyone to see themselves in STEM. And that's what I do. And that's what I do here at Auburn. And that's what I have committed to do with my career as a scientist.
Well, we're very fortunate to have you. I know that all of that experience naturally translates into you being a transformative individual, not just in your own lives, but in the lives of those who you serve. And so I thank you for that. Claire and Brianna, as scholars, you both take part in some of the programming that that Dr. Mulligan is involved in. And so would you share a little bit about yourselves and tell us who you are? I guess we can start with Claire or Brianna and let us know more about you and how you came to Auburn and what you have done with Auburn. Claire or Brianna, that's fine.
Okay. I guess I can go first. So kind of unlike Dr. Mulligan, I did not know that I wanted to do science when I was in elementary school and high school. I actually didn't think about going into STEM until my senior year. And I actually, when I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be a chef. And so I took culinary classes for 3 years. And then I quickly realized that that's not what I wanted to do. And the summer bridge program that Dr. Mulligan's office has every summer is what really helped me decide that I wanted to do STEM. We got to talk to a lot of healthcare professionals. And although I didn't know what specifically I wanted to do, I knew that this was what I wanted to do, that I wanted to be in healthcare, that I wanted to do science. And in my sophomore year, I decided on physical therapy after some life experiences. And Dr. Mulligan really helped me and encouraged me to kind of find my niche and to find what really made me happy and what I was really going to be fulfilled in the future. And so I've actually just been accepted to Duke University's physical therapy program, and I'll be starting that in August.
Congratulations. That's wonderful. Exciting, right? There's always opportunities, and I'm glad that you found that. Claire, what about you?
So I grew up and I knew that I kind of gravitated towards science and math classes. And I found my friends in those classes, and I found I just really loved the explanations that it can provide. And so I didn't really know the differentiation between wanting to be a research professional or going into medicine. And so I picked biochemistry because I thought that would be a beautiful bridge between them, and I could have a lot of options. And so I came into college basically with a question mark about what I wanted to do. And I've only recently decided that I want to really hone my skills of like relating to others and serving people through being in the healthcare profession. And I intend to go to medical school after I graduate.
That's wonderful. Though the two programs, some of it you guys have discussed already. We have some video, we have some pictures that give us an example of what it is to be out in the field. And I'm hoping that we can show those here shortly. What has the experience done for either one of you in being there and seeing some of the personal impact, direct impact that you've seen?
I think for me, especially the study abroad program that where we went to Dominican Republic in 2019 really helped me. I'd never been outside of the US before. And so just kind of seeing what life is like for other people outside of this country and just kind of seeing the struggles that they go through and experiencing their culture, I had a great time. In this video here, we're helping build a water filtration system in a small rural town, I guess, in Dominican Republic called La Piedra. And they're actually able to have a pool. And so what they have there is a community center. The kids in the community can go there and swim, and they have a playground that they built for them, and they have an education center. So they're really providing a lot of resources for those kids that they wouldn't have otherwise.
You know, one thing we missed from this video is that you've got some salsa going or some merengue or something. And it was fun to watch it the first time. I was hoping I could hear it again. Identify with that. But it seems like you really enjoyed it.
I did. It was an amazing experience.
That's wonderful. Dr. Mulligan, tell us about the impact that having diversity in programs like this makes. And I know you and I had a discussion also, what impact it makes not having diversity in programs like this.
So I think that when we think about just STEM in general and what the importance is of having a diverse group of people who participate in these fields, they have done a lot of research which highlights, the importance of having diverse teams in these fields. And so when you have a diverse team, they are more likely to outperform homogeneous teams, even if the individuals on these homogeneous teams are considered to have a relative greater ability, however you want to judge that, than the individuals on a diverse team. And I think one of the things that we have to think about, and we step back, because I think we get very caught up in when we're thinking about diversity, we're thinking about these social identities, right? Just as parts. So we think about like race, gender, socioeconomic status, whatever you want to think about when you think about a social identity, but we really don't think about how, because of all these intersecting identities that we have, it shapes how we view the world. So me as a Black woman who grew up in the South, was educated in the South, if I was given a problem and the same problem was given to a Hispanic man who grew up on the West Coast and was educated on the West Coast, we may actually look at those problems completely different based off our lived experiences. However, if you put us both in a room together and asked us to think about that problem together, and we would be able to ask each other new questions and think about different perspectives, I promise you that we would come up with a more creative and inclusive solution to that problem. And so, because we're going to force each other or challenge each other to think outside of our own box, right? And so this just really highlights the importance of diversity. And I think we have to realize that individuals can't be diverse. Individuals can have intersecting identities, but you can't be diverse. Diversity comes from having groups of people together that bring in new ideas. And I think one of the things that's really important about programs like ours, who particularly speak to students who come from marginalized identities, particularly those that are traditionally underrepresented in STEM, you think that they make up about 1/3 of the population, but only about 10% of the PhDs in life sciences. So there is so much untapped talent that we're missing out of that would help us come up with more innovative solutions to problems, excuse me. And so this is why it's important that we have programs like this. It's important, I tell the students who come into our programs that we're a community. I did a program like Summer Bridge when I was in college. And really what that did for me, it put me in the position to connect with like-minded people who were all striving towards the same thing. And we pushed one another to succeed. So, I remember those nights when we're studying for a PChem exam and I'm like, okay, just let me take a 15-minute nap and wake me up. And so my classmates would do that so we could get up and take Dr. Turner's PChem exam. I still have nightmares about those. But now when I look back, all of us are doing what we said we wanted to do. They are college professors, doctors, dentists, engineers. And it's because, and I'm not saying that we wouldn't have got there without one another, but it sure made it a lot easier having that built-in community. And that's what we do for the scholars who participate in our programs.
That's wonderful. So there's a synergy that's built. There's a synergy that's established. Now this happens in all groups. However, being able to have this international and or cultural impact, bringing those two together does build a unique synergy that this program benefits from. How can those that want to assist and provide opportunities for more STEM program, how can they help your current program now?
Oh, well, that's such a, it's a big ask. And I think whenever I tell people, and when they say they want to help, I said, do you really want to help? Because if you say this, then I have ways for you to help. But I think about, Brianna talked about participating in our study abroad program. And so what that program we really did was bring together students who had diverse backgrounds in STEM. And we centered it around water quality, which is an issue that can be touched from any area of STEM. And we had a class together and then we were able to go out the country. But the unique thing about this program was that first, Brianna mentioned that everybody who participated had to never have traveled out of the country. So you had to be a first-time international traveler. And then the other thing was that we paid for everything because we don't want cost to be a barrier for anyone to be able to participate in something here at the university that could really change your life. Like going to another country, being able to experience that, it really changes how you view the world and makes you think bigger. And so, that costs a lot of money, and I want to continue to be able to do that. So, money's always welcome, but I also think that money is not the most important thing, right? I am so big, I think I mentioned mentorship. I am very big on mentorship because I think that, once again, I think about all the people who opened up doors and made space for me to be 100% authentically myself in these fields. And so I look for people who are going to help my scholars be able to do those same things, right? We discussed that people come into science and they have this idea about what you can do with these fields, but there's so many things that you can do. So being able to connect with others who maybe came into science thinking they wanted to be a doctor or a physical therapist or whatever, but then went down a different path and figured out their passion and purpose. I want some people who can help mentor our students and help them think about how they can find what their purpose is, because that's all I care about for them. I want everybody who comes through, I want you all to go into STEM, but what I'm more concerned with is that you find the thing that's going to make you want to get up every morning and go to work. I tell them all the time, I love what I do. I love this. So if I would have won that lottery a few weeks ago where it was almost $1 billion, now mind you, I might have took a few days off, but really all it means for me is that everything that I want to do for these students, I could do it because money was no object. And I would still be here. So, given your time, and we are always looking for new programs. We are always open to new ideas. We talk about innovation a lot. And so I'm always trying, I don't care about failure. I don't believe in failure. I believe in a learning experience. And so if someone comes in and says, I thought about this and I would love to be able to do this for your students, well, let's do it. Let's see if it works. And if it doesn't work, let's think about what about it didn't work and how we can make it better. So, I'm always interested in people just participating, giving back their time, giving of their talent. And then, if you would like to give some of your treasure, we will take that as well.
Time, talent, and treasure. That's wonderful. Thank you. I saw Claire nodding when you were talking about mentorship. So Claire, can you share a little bit about that mentorship experience and how you identify with that?
Yes, I would love to. So through the Office of Inclusion, Equity, and Diversity, we've had a couple programs called PASS and Dine and Design, and they are leadership and life experience mini seminars, essentially, where you're at a table with other scholars from the STEM Summer Bridge program and from multiple years. And we talk about things like mentorship or writing resumes or mental health days. And Dr. Mulligan has really encouraged us to all have growth mindsets. And that's what really happens when we're in those collaborative settings where we challenge each other and sit there in awkward silence while we think about things that we haven't thought about. And, after a few awkward minutes, you're like, okay, what kind of answers did you guys get? And it may be an upperclassman talking to a freshman who is going through their Chemistry 1 classes. And they're like, honestly, I'm just thinking about all of the homework that I have. And then, but while you may not be talking about the specific topic, you are indeed mentoring someone. And that's really valuable because then you can give life experiences and you can just share a connection to help build each other up.
It's valuable time together. Brianna, when it comes to some of the, ambassadorship programs that you have, can you tell us about what you've experienced as an ambassador or what you know about the ambassadorship program?
The ambassadors do a lot in the office. They have monthly events, but Claire is actually an ambassador, and so I think she would be a little bit more suited to tell us about it.
Wonderful. Claire.
Yes, I love the COSAM OIED ambassador because one, we're just a big net of support, and we have a heart for expanding what the definition of diversity is. We challenge each other to look for opportunities to provide to other students so that they can participate in the conversation. We also have K through 12 outreach events where we have gone to Moores Mill Elementary School or Dean Road Elementary School, and we bring little science projects to them, and we encourage them to think, what would it be like if you were to think about doing something in STEM, and what can you see yourself doing, because you're capable and you can do it. We also have campus events where we invite students to come hang out with us, and sometimes we have coffee or snacks or trivia, and we just get people acquainted with the resources that are within the office, and also try to help them network.
Sounds like fun. And it sounds also like when it comes to those who can take advantage of the programs and diversity, it's different groups, right? It's not just one particular group, different ages, I'm assuming. So valuable. Here's a question for you, Dr. Mulligan. When you think about there not being diversity within programs like this, or the lack of, what does that do to a program?
So, I think that we can talk about this broadly and think about like what it does to the whole field, right? Because I'm always concerned with STEM fields as a whole and what the lack of diversity can cause to happen in these fields. And so I think I gave you a good example, and it's more recent, and it's something that happened. There's an article in Science in 2019 where they were talking about this algorithm that was created to help you understand who of these patients who would be eligible for this program that was going to help you with your healthcare. And you can go look at, I won't go into all the details of the program. You're more than welcome to look it up. But basically this algorithm decided to base who was able to participate in this program or receive this treatment based on healthcare costs. So how much money you spent on your healthcare versus illness. And so when you looked at Black and white individuals, you found that Black individuals who were of similar sickness compared to the white individuals, they were found to need the healthcare program less. And it actually reduced the amount of people who were selected, or Black individuals who were selected, by half, who really should have been in the program. But why is this? So we know that the systems, that our healthcare systems aren't equitable. A lot of the systems in this country are inequitable. They weren't built for everyone. And so when you talk about healthcare costs and you're talking about who is going to get treatment, and based on that, we already know that marginalized communities, people of color, Black and brown people, they may not have access to quality healthcare in the same way. And so they may not be spending as much money on their healthcare. So if you just based it off of the amount of money spent, then you would say, oh, they're good, right? And so what this really highlights is that when we're so in this room, this could have been built by mathematicians, it could have been built by computer science, but these are both fields that are very largely male and very largely white. And we have to all first acknowledge the fact that we all have biases. Everyone has biases. And so I think we need to get away from, when you hear this, you want to say, no, not me, not me. No, everyone has biases. I have biases, everyone has biases. And so being able to first, like, instead of getting, offended when someone talks about this, but really being able to sit down and say, okay, yes, what are my biases and how do they come in play? Because they impact every aspect of our life. So they're going to impact how you do your work. I do not believe anybody who was designing this algorithm said, you know what, the goal of this for me is that I want to make sure that Black people don't get the care they need. No, but because there was no one in the room to say, hey, do you realize that in these communities, they may not have the same kind of access? So judging this by this particular, parameter may leave a lot of people out. Mm-hmm. This demonstrates, it's just one example, and we could go through many about the importance of having diversity in the room and bringing all the people to the table who are going to be impacted by the solutions and the things that we come up with in these fields.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's important to note and important to recognize. It's an awareness piece. I want to tell you that there's a lot of likes on Facebook Live. And for those of you that are watching that hitting those likes. We appreciate it. It tells us that it matters to you, and it tells us that this topic is an important topic. Laurel Hendricks and Chatsel B. Burns have both sent some comments. One of those we talked about earlier, the advantage of programs and services and who can take advantage of those. And we've said that, or you've said that, you know, it's multiple different groupings that can. There is one other question. Who are the influencers to help encourage more diversity in STEM fields, and what things must be done to encourage long-term success in filling the pipeline of talent? And we've got about 4 minutes, but if you can answer that, that would be wonderful.
So I want to make sure we said, so what can be done to help? So can you repeat it one more time? I apologize.
That's fine. As far as long-term success in filling the pipeline of talent, who would these influencers be, and how do we build up that pipeline of talent that will continue to come through these programs?
Yeah, and I think we're constantly talking about this STEM pipeline, right? I think if you go and look this up and put in pipeline and STEM, you will see so many things about this leaky pipeline, about how, you know, people are going through and they're getting their undergraduate degrees, but then they're not going on to their master's, or they're getting their PhDs and they're not coming to the professoriate. And so what can we do to make sure that, you know, we have a diverse, and people, particularly people who are from traditionally underrepresented groups, feel like they can be in STEM? Well, I mean, we've talked about some things right now, this mentorship. There are studies that show how impactful mentorship is for students. I think there are other things that we talk about is like, you know, we were having a conversation yesterday in one of our meetings, and we talk about these gateway courses, right? And so I think anybody who has gone through a science degree, you know that sometimes you hear these courses like, oh, well, if you can't do well in this class, then, you know, then maybe science is not for you. We have to stop that. We have to stop that, because we have to understand that when someone comes to college, we don't know where they came from before that. And we know that and once again, we talked about institutions and then the equity that are built in institutions, and that happens at the educational institutions at the K through 12 level. And so, you know, they're here. And if someone tells me that they want to go into science, or they tell me that they want to be a doctor or a physical therapist, and we're going to say, how are we going to get there? And it does, and I try to tell students all the time, I think just because something doesn't go exactly the way you want it to go, it does not mean that that is not what you're supposed to be doing. Everybody's path is not a straight line. I think if you meet most people and ask them how they got to where they are, they're going to tell you about all the obstacles and the barriers and the bumps in the road that they had to overcome. But a lot of times you're able to do that because there is someone there who supports you and who has told you that you can do this. And so I think that it's just about making sure that if you're in a community and you are interested in stuff, making sure that students get to see you and you encourage them and provide them with opportunities to take advantage of this. I think that's one of the best things that we can do to help our students be successful. And when I look at Aubriana and Claire, like, they are prime examples of what, you know, that looks like. I'm so proud of both of them.
You know, your passion and love for the show is clear, that you love it. And the viewers don't get to see this, but I get to see the nods that Aubriana and Claire put out there as Dr. Mulligan speaks. And it's really nice to see that synergy between you all. Talbert Fleming says, this is awesome. And I have to agree. We have just a minute left. And what I wanted to do was to thank the three of you, Dr. Mulligan, Claire King, and Aubriana Roberts, for joining us today. The Auburn Alumni Association is proud of the work that you're doing to make Auburn University a more equitable place. And so thank you for taking part in sharing your experiences and a little bit about you with us. Please be on the lookout for more diversity, equity, inclusion spotlight segments in the future. To the three of you, thank you. Until next time, stay safe and War Eagle.
Thank you, and War Eagle.